going on with the lights?
It can't be.
What was that?
Oh, boy, you are in for a show tonight, son.
It's 2012. It's been 4 years since one of the highest grossing films of all time was released. The Dark Knight has left a permanent mark in cinema, being loved by film enthusiasts and the general audience. Christopher Nolan has become a household name, with his next original film, Inception, being a smash hit and critical darling, with some saying it tops his previous work. Warner Brothers is on a high, and they think it's about time that this Batman series has an epic finish, and on July 20th, 2012, I went to the theaters to watch the ending for one of the best trilogies of all time. It was long, always very long. Too many new characters, a great villain that does his best to bring something different from the Joker, lots of sets, lots of story, and lots of conclusions. It's a unique film in that it was extremely popular when it was released and continues to have a strong fan base to this day, but from the beginning there's been a growing crowd that feels this is a bad movie, the black sheep of the franchise, similar to Return of the Jedi or Back to the Future Part 3. It definitely ranks among nearly every other threequel ever made as being the least favorite one. However, I wouldn't like to get into that conversation. I've always loved the film for the most part. I watched it continuously when I got the Blu-ray, and there were times where I even liked it more than the other two. Then I rewatched it for this video, and I have to say, it's starting to wear off on me a bit. It definitely feels a bit off at times with confusing story beats and dialogue. It really could trim probably an hour off from the runtime by removing a couple characters. Yet the climax and the action make up for a lot of it, and by far the most interesting thing in this movie is the politics. No, don't worry, this channel isn't suddenly going to be talking about campaigns and factions in Congress, despite the fact that I have a degree in political science. I will say, though, that it's impossible to watch this movie without thinking about the current history surrounding it. Cut to 2008. The Dark Knight is a cultural hit during the summer, but as we get into the later part of the year and the final months of the Bush administration, a financial collapse not seen since the Great Depression cripples the country. Banks are shown to be corrupt, automakers have to be saved, and the White House becomes home to the cool, hopeful black guy. There's a sense of a brighter future, or so it may seem. Years go on, and while we climb out of the recession, the Tea Party movement occurs, the Republican Party is considered to be falling apart, and a TV personality's name keeps popping up in the news: Donald Trump. He goes against what's considered the safest bet in Democratic history, Hillary Clinton, and wins the election. Now, why am I talking about all this? Well, let's get back to The Dark Knight Rises. It's a film that takes place 8 years after the previous one, meaning it should be around 2016. There's a time of peace and prosperity in Gotham, all based on a lie. Batman is considered a villain, and Commissioner Gordon has to keep the secret of Harvey Dent safe. Then here comes Bane to rejuvenate the ignored crowd during this peacetime, the people who are lower class, the poor and the homeless, the lost souls. In a resounding speech to society, Bane explains that the Harvey Dent situation was a lie used to incarcerate the mafias, and the town retaliates, with many people expressing support for Bane, an ugly figure whose motive is kept secret, being a voice for the silent majority. Yeah, kind of sounding familiar, isn't it? There's many subtle beats from the peaceful crowd during this flick. The congressman openly flirts with Catwoman, the stock market guys are assholes, and Dagger is trying to use his power to take over Wayne Enterprises. These are all people who would win big after the mafia collapses, but what about everyone else, as Catwoman explains?
You and your friends better batten down the hatches, because when it hits, you're all gonna wonder how you ever thought you could live so large and leave so little for the rest of us.
Even though Bane is a dangerous figure, people celebrate his takeovers since the overlooked crowds are free to do what they want, the people who got nothing out of the peaceful times. Once again, Batman needs to come to prove why he's the best kind of inspirational figure for the town to look towards. As much as the Harvey Dent scenario worked, it also failed in the end, and perhaps threw the town into a despair worse than before. People argue that the film is lazy when Bane's plot is revealed to be connected to the League of Shadows, a revenge scheme for the death of Ra's al Ghul. I have a contention with that criticism though. I think it shows that people linger and hold on to these dead ideas, despite the fact that times have changed. Gotham is not in a state of peril that it was in the first film. The only reason the League of Shadows were on a mission to destroy it. Now it's in a state of peace, which, hey, it may be based on a lie, but it's still peaceful, which is apparently not good enough. So the mission is to blow up the town. It's because Bane, and to an extension Miranda Tate, stick to their old beliefs, the same ones that Ra's al Ghul had. Make Gotham great again, if you would. It's only when Batman takes care of the situation that the day is saved, and the people of Gotham, the everyday citizens, caught in the middle of the extremists, are finally able to open their doors to be relieved. This film really has an undercurrent of confidence, motivation, and never giving up. Many of the characters get their shining moments, and I think it finishes strong, even if it gets long and random at certain scenes. Bruce Wayne still steals the show, and even when the truth of Rachel choosing Dent over him is revealed, he still feels compelled to do what's right, now understanding that the world can't go on without a Batman, finally proving why he's better than Dent. There's always a need for a shining gleam of hope, something that's impossible in the public office, where corruption and lying is almost immediately part of the game. They may have their legitimate reasoning for why they have to do things the way they do, but it still proves that outside forces, non-political actors, serve as the best inspiration. Sadly, there are times when it may feel that there's no Batman in the real world. During a time of extreme political polarization, constant social media and press, it may seem like a gloomy country. What can we do when it seems like no one will stand up? Well, this trilogy really shows why Batman is my favorite character. I love that someone can constantly strive to make the best choices no matter the situation. I think it's a symbol that runs through all the decades he's existed. While things may seem worse than ever, you always have to remember, the night is always darkest before the dawn. I promise you, the dawn is coming. It's not up to your neighbors or your congressman or your president. It's up to you. You need to be kind, choose where your loyalty goes, and always read and think. Take time before you speak and make up your mind. Batman is a representation for the good that lies within everyone, and as the ending shows, he can never truly die.
A hero can be anyone, even a man doing something as simple and reassuring as putting a coat around a young boy's shoulders to let him know the world hadn't ended.
Thank you for watching the video. A special thanks to Chris, Lucas, and Ryan for supporting me on Patreon. If you'd like to be like them and get exclusive access to content and blogs, and even request reviews monthly, please click on the Patreon link, and thanks for your support.